The Uganda we want. So mu Uganda gye twagala mu lutalo luno olw'okulwanyisa obulabbayo obukenuzi nze kyempita obuvundu. Munna Uganda alina okuba nga yeenyigiramu.
Ffenna twenyigire mu lutalo.
Ate abalala tebasomye kuzimba wabula bayize okuzimba.
Uganda gye twagala okulaba ng'enguudo zonna nkole nungi, public transport nga weeri.
Kati eno gavumenti eriwo erina akabonero ka Lucifer. Buli kyotunulako mu Uganda kiriko oxygen. Either babika amawulire malungi oba mawulire mabi. Minisita teyeetagisa kabangali budde buno zaki.
At this time, why should somebody import furniture from outside Uganda? Let us leave NRM to be in charge for another 36 years or more.
I really want to see a Uganda that believes in the rule of law. If you have a constitution in place, follow it to the letter. Don't change laws just because you want them to favor you.
Kuba njagala omanye nti obugagga bwonna Uganda bwe yeeyagaliramu buyita waffe ku ttaka lyaffe. Naye busoga mugidibaze.
How can a referral hospital refer you to a private clinic? The Uganda we want buli muntu ateekwa okumanya nti I am a stakeholder, nkwatibwako si kwesuulirayo gwa naggamba.
Uganda oyinza okukakana nga mwe mulina ba graduates aba university nga bangi okusinga ebungereza. Mwe mufokasinga nnyo ku degree. Eri bo bafokasinga nnyo nti byensomye mbijeemu omulimu n'enkola.
We are dreaming of a Uganda where at a young age there is such a relationship between parent and son, parent and daughter, where the daughter can say this is what I want.
Uganda gye twagala empya tesobola kubeerawo nga tewali mateeka. Amateeka agakola.
The Uganda we want. Welcome to the program, The Uganda We Want. My name is Mulanzi Robert. I want to thank you for viewing our television, Dream TV, and also listening to our radio station, Impact FM. And I want to let you know that if you've been having difficulties in watching Dream TV on Star Times, we do have a brand new channel where you can get access to all our services as Dream TV. And that is channel 531, 531. If you have Star Times satellite dish, you can find us on channel 531. But if you have Star Times antenna, you can find us on 286. If you have GoTV, 816. And of course, if you're on free to air, that is channel 17. You'll be able to find us. But also, some of you who are so much conversant and addictive to internet, we do have a website, www.imc.ug. If you go there, you'll be able to access all our programming and our services. And also, if you have a smartphone like the one I do have here, it could be from Apple product or from Android. You can go to Google Play or Apple Store, and of course, download Victory Uganda app. That application will definitely give you all the services. You'll be able to watch Dream TV. You'll be able to listen into Impact FM, and as well, you'll be able to follow the preachings and the messages from Victory Christian Center by Dr. Joseph Serwada. So just an encouragement for you as we're going to get started with our show today, that you can now find us. If there is any other platform that we haven't come your way, please just be patient. We are coming. We're on the way. We are working on it. And I hope I will be back here and let you know of what has come up in case it has been, implemented. Well, this is a program where we're listening from different people from this country who actually share with us the kind of Uganda that they envision, the kind of Uganda that they want to see. I believe you who is viewing us today, there is a Uganda that you'd love to see. If you walk around, if you move around, you're like, I think this has to change. I don't know if that normally comes to you. I don't know if you've ever been in such a situation where like you're moving on the street or you're moving in your community where you stay, and you pause for a minute. You're alone, but you pause for a minute and you say, I don't know if it has ever come to you, but to me, many times I see something and I'm like, this has to change. So just an example, as I'm going to invite my guest tonight. A few days ago, we were coming from Chenkwanzi. Some people call it Chankwanzi or Chenkwanzi or Chankwanzi. But you know the place where we have the National Leadership Institute, NALI. I was coming from that side, and we were actually approaching Busunju, or even after Busunju. Could be before or after Busunju. And there was a taxi that was ahead of us. As I was driving, suddenly a bottle of, two bottles of, one of soda and the other of water came from the window of the taxi that was ahead of us. And then the friend who was seated next to me on the passenger's seat, I told him, you see that? So who is seated in there, who's like, he's done taking, drinking his soda and water, he's just throwing the bottle and doesn't know what he's doing on the environment. So we've got many Ugandans who actually don't care about their country. Please, this is our country. If you're a Ugandan, you will never be an American. You will never be a Rwandan if you are a Ugandan. Yes, you can be an East African citizen, but you cannot be a Rwandan. You can only be a Ugandan. So I think from that background and from that foundation for today, just allow me welcome my guest, a doctor in the making, Droti Asile James. He's a chemistry specialist, and he's serving with National Curriculum Development Center. And he is here with us again. Remember, we had him in the first 2 episodes, and now he's back with his 3rd and 4th episode. And I am actually eagerly waiting to hear from him about the Uganda that he wants to see. Doctor, could you please greet our viewers and our listeners, and thank you for welcoming us to your home today.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mulanji. Good evening, viewers and listeners. I'm so delighted to be once again on this very, I would say, spiritual media center. And I'm delighted to talk about the Uganda we want. You are most welcome to listen to our conversation this afternoon.
Wow. Well, in the first episode, you actually told us where you're coming from. I wouldn't want to go back, but it's good people to know who is speaking to them. You're born of Arua.
Yes.
Western Nile.
Yes.
That's Western Nile. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's good. So, Doctor, in the last episode, that was 2nd episode, you talked about the Uganda that you want to see. Of course, we started off from you said a lot of things in education, but you are like, let us embrace especially the new curriculum that has come up.
Yes.
And that is now working. The old one is fading away, especially for senior 1 to senior 4. And you were actually appealing, not as a staff at National Curriculum Development Center, but as a Ugandan, that you think, if I quote you very well, that if we embrace this new curriculum that is being implemented now at all level, one is aiming at skilling the students.
Yes.
And as well, it is putting much emphasis on the values.
Yes.
I remember asking you a question on moral fiber of our country. How can we change that? And you kept on referring me to, and even the viewers, to the way how we got our education. The education that we received, it speaks a lot of volumes when it comes to how we behave in the society and what is happening actually right now in Uganda. So we appreciate that. And you said that. But now as we're concluding the show, you said there is a Uganda you want to see. And the reason why Dream TV, under the guidance of our managing director and our vision bearers, Dr. Joseph Srada and the wife, they have to say, you go and look out for this man again. If it's possible, go to his home. Let him tell us the Uganda that he wants to see with good governance.
Yeah.
And I want to stop talking. Now I want to listen to you and get my notebook and put down some notes. How can we achieve a Uganda with good governance?
Thank you, Mr. Mulanji and viewers. The Uganda we want should be that which has a good governance, which is at the same time very, very transparent. And engaging, it's effective. As I said, it must be transparent. And it should be that kind of Uganda which has a good accountability of the governance of all structures, and also the kind of Uganda which has a participatory civic engagement. So that this kind of governance will be embraced by everybody, and it will push in all the policies that can bring out effectively the implementation of what has been planned. So in order to have this kind of governance, it will require a lot of, I would say, one, monitoring and supervision. And how can this be achieved? One of the things that is making the Uganda we want not to be enjoyable, as I said the other time, is the element of corruption. And this corruption can only be managed if we envision a governance which would have an e-governance platforms.
E-governance platforms.
Yes.
Well, Doctor, yes, I see where you're heading, but for the purpose of our understanding, and you're a teacher, when we say good governance, what do we mean? What is governance? What is good governance, first of all? And then maybe you will help us also to teach us what is corruption. Probably we may be even dealing with what we don't know, because over time, very well, you brought it because you've been, seeing this happening, like the rise of corruption cases in our country.
Yeah.
We may be dealing with what we actually don't know. What is good governance? And then you help us to teach us what is also corruption.
When we talk about good governance, any government has three arms. We have the we have the judiciary. We have of course the cabinet,
the executive,
and then the third one is the
legislature.
The legislature, yeah. Those are the three arms, and those contribute to governing the affairs of the country. So to have a good governance, you must have all the three structures functioning very, very well. And they must be coordinated so that one is able to approve policies for good implementation, and it must be followed up. So all the three structures will promote good governance in a way that they are linked, in a way that they are collaborative, and they work in synergy to ensure that whatever is being agreed upon benefits the population. So to me, that is what will be good governance.
Also, these three arms you're talking about, whatever they are doing it for the benefit of me.
Of the citizens, yeah.
Of me.
Of me, yeah. So that is where we would say a good governance without flaw in what they have decided to plan and implement. And you know, what we want as a population, as a country, as the citizens, is good security, and then good food security, good shelter, good health, good education. All those things make what we are make us to enjoy the country we want. So when we have all these services around, then we can say this is good governance.
Oh, so the moment I wake up and let's say I'm having a challenge with food security and I'm having food insecurity, then I cannot credit the government to have good governance.
Yes.
Like, this is bad governance.
I think
I'm not led well.
Yeah, that is the more reason why
insecurity. Like,
if any politician comes around, the voters don't ask for anything apart from food, apart from good security, apart from good health. Those are the things that they ask for. Whether it is the legislature, whether it is the judiciary, whether it is, those three arms, whenever they have an opportunity to meet with stakeholders, they ask for those things I'm talking about, which constitute the good governance. So the administration of all these things I've enumerated lead to a good governance. So the people who manage the health, all the services provided to the citizens provide governance of any nation. So when it comes to, you have talked about corruption. The corruption we're talking about is misappropriation and the deficiency in the provision of these services. So that they don't reach the intended targets.
So should I say, doctor, that this corruption comes from these people who are, who are supposed to govern from the three arms, from the three arms that you talked about? If I think like that, am I correct?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
So if they don't appropriately give opportunities for these people, the stakeholders, the citizens, the population to receive the good services, when actually it is already planned for, but doesn't reach the end point where the citizens are supposed to benefit, then we call it corruption. Because it is supposed to, but what has happened to the services in between? Why is it not reaching there when it's already planned for and paid for?
Planned for and paid for, but it doesn't reach
there. So that is corruption.
Oh. So should we say there are times when something or a service is planned for but not paid for?
Yeah, that one, of course. If it is planned for and not paid for, yes, we may not call that corruption.
We may excuse them from corruption.
Yeah, because it has not been provided.
Okay.
For one reason or the other, the resources may not have been sufficient. You may plan, but sometimes like in a home, you can plan something, but you may not have the resources to implement it immediately. There you are not to blame. But one which is already planned for and the resources are being availed, but these resources do not provide what is intended for, the service it is intended for, then that is pure corruption.
And no negotiations that are supposed to go on to take place, that is corruption.
That's corruption. Actually, the person who hinders or impedes these services from reaching the intended targets actually should be penalized immediately without any question.
Yeah, we'll talk about the penalties, but I think I'm getting you right when it comes to what is good governance and what is corruption. So let's go to the how now. Because we've seen that, yes, there are three arms of government. They're supposed to work in unison, in unity. But what we see, Doctor, that's not happening. It seems there is this kind of, pulling and collision between the arms that you've talked about. And probably that could explain why the country is going through what some may call it a bad governance. How can we go over about that?
Yeah, the legislature has a very big role in shaping good governance. And, these are people who are voted in office by the voters, by people in the regions or in the constituencies they come from. And the people back at home will expect that they support them in making good policies that will eventually lead to good provision of these public services that we want, like the education, like health, like security, like water, good environment. All these, they will expect it. But this can only be achieved if the people we send make these plans with no strings attached. Some of the people who go there, we have already seen it by ourselves. Some of them go not to debate for the sake to debate on what their people would like to have. But others just go and sit and they want to have the money. It may not be all of them, but that is one element, because there are people who are not working they are not collaborating, they are not agreeing. But sometimes because of some influence somewhere, you find, for example, I want to give you one example. The issue of what you talked about, somebody throwing away a bottle of water on the road. Whom does this person want to collect the bottle? And yet we know that this bottle is plastic. It does not biodegrade. And so it will eventually end up, destroying the soil where it lands. And if several other people are throwing in the same spot, then that soil becomes, bad. But we have a policy which is to be implemented. And so this policy is the policy of, we agreed that we will, in this country, have polythene of some millimeters, so that when you throw it, it is able to degrade.
To degrade, yes.
Yeah. But this is a very good policy. It has never been implemented. Why? Then the people who are in the legislature, this will debate it again. Why is it not implemented? So that question is not being asked. So it has to be, which means that the governance of that policy, the implementation of that policy has to be enhanced and really affected. So they've made a very good policy on the misuse of plastics, but now it's not been implemented. So you can see the issue of who is not doing it well is coming in.
Yeah,
so
actually,
in my view,
it was in 2018.
Yes.
When Parliament was November, when Parliament passed that the National Environment Bill 2017, banning polythene bags below 30 microns. That's what they passed, and these people remember very well. People who are in the manufacturing industry association, environmental activists, all of them were like, yes, we need to embrace this bill, and it becomes a law.
Yeah. So this way you can see this was a very good policy. Yeah. We wouldn't be having heaps of cavera in our vicinities, which is eventually leading to environmental degradation.
Yeah.
If this policy, very good policy, was implemented. So the three arms should come together to see how do we now implement this. Because if we don't implement this and we continue to have what we are having, then definitely what we experienced a few weeks ago, the very high temperatures will recur.
Yeah.
Because these are the things that contribute to climate change. And of course, it is the poor soils that are now contributing to, eventually the accumulation of what we call as the greenhouse gases, and eventually causing, retention of heat, and the temperatures rising up. So it is emanating from this. So the how I've tried to explain it through the passing of that particular bill and making it into a law. But you can see we have done it very well, but other countries have taken it over. If you have ever traveled on air, around the air, by the time you are landing Kigali, they will have been, they'll have, all their packages are in paper bags. And I'm told those who go by road, before you enter into Kigali, they remove all the kavera.
Even those who travel by road to Kenya, the same thing.
So for us, we leave everything at large. Why? Because of the poor governance, which is not transparent. Yeah. And we need to have a mechanism of following up who is not doing well in any of these, arms.
Yeah, because Doctor, when a policy comes from the means of education, and let's say we want to make sure that every student or every teacher does something, you have implementers that at every level.
Yes.
That you have to go to, and they have to do what the ministry has, come up with, or NCDC has come up with. Wait, I don't know if you have ever heard of this. When you hear from some of our members of parliament, they say, you sent me in parliament to enact for you the law, the bill or the law, and it's what I have done. The rest is not me. And I see a problem there. Yes, you said these legislators, they are key in making sure that we have a country with good governance, but they are saying we are stopping at only enacting. If we, after doing our job well on enacting the bills, many of them turn into law, our job is done.
Yeah,
but you bring in the issue of implementation.
Yes.
How can we trace from now Parliament has passed a bill, now it is a law, if it turns into a law, how do we do the implementation? Who do we follow, as you said, and how can we follow up?
Yeah, I think that's where actually they should not play a bigger role in its implementation. They shouldn't actually stop at enacting. Because it's like when you are studying. You study, you get the knowledge. What are you doing with the knowledge? Is the question. Now they have made a law. What should be done with the law? They should follow it to conclusion. That's why I'm saying there should be a relationship, a collaboration between among all the three arms of government, so that we follow whatever law has been enacted to its conclusion, so that the resources are even provided for its implementation. Because in the parliament, we have the Parliamentary Committee on Resource Management, Parliamentary Committee on Planning. I thought these would be the people, like when it comes to budgeting, these are the people who will eventually follow up after the budget has been approved. They should follow up. How is it used? I think there's this committee again which follows how was the money used that was budgeted. So all these are things of the law. So they shouldn't actually stop with enacting the laws, but they should follow out the different line ministries which are there to implement. so that they follow exactly what have you done with this law, like the environmental management here, the Kavera issue. They enacted it in 2018. This is now 2024. So the ministry, which is supposed to implement that, should be followed. It's like you talked about education. In education, we can plan, but the actual implementation, we know is done by the teachers. But the teachers have to be followed by the inspectors. That's why we have a very big directorate called the Directorate of Inspection. That one has to follow up. How are the teachers implementing? Are they doing what is being prescribed as in the curriculum? So similarly here, the different line ministries, the parliamentary committees should actually follow up with the bills that have been implemented. So they should not just say, I have done my part, and you sit back in the chair and rest. No.
And enjoy the swinging chairs.
That shouldn't be, to me, in my view. It's what is actually causing problem.
Yeah. Because, Doctor, now, how sure am I that when I go to the supermarket or to the shop, the Kavera they are giving me is below 30 microns?
Yeah, that's, again, this is actually exactly where I'm coming from. It is not supposed to be that particular ministry. I know this is Ministry of Environment and Manage. Is it what? Ministry of where Neymar falls. This is supposed to be the ministry that follows. Is the micron of this Kavera given out the right one? Or alternatively, is every supermarket now using paper bags instead of Kaveras? That will be the easiest to follow. If you don't know the micron of the Kavera or the plastic you are being given, the easiest you can understand is the paper bag, which is obviously biodegradable. So that they should be the one to ensure that, and doing spot check on a number of the supermarkets that are selling.
They are increasing on a high speed. I remember when this came up in our country, they were talking about it. There is a supermarket I know very well. After they passed this, I think it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. When I was going to the supermarket, they were giving me paper bags. But after 3 weeks, they stopped, even up to now.
But I think they should not only even start with the supermarkets. They should start with the people who are manufacturing this, so that whatever they manufacture is ascertained, is checked from the source. So like UNBS should now go back to these factories. Are you manufacturing the right Kavera of the right gauge? So that whatever goes to the supermarkets, the supermarket people will bear less blame, because now they are buying from the producers. So that should be, fought from the source. But this one, I think, people are not doing it because of probably the manufacturers. Even bribing, probably, I would say that people are supposed to.
I was coming to that, Doctor. Because why don't we say, let's get rid of anything called the polythene bag? The moment you say at least below 30 microns, automatically there is somehow, somewhere, you're trying to promote
First of all, it is still plastic.
It's still it is still plastic. However much it is below 30 microns, whether it is 10 or 5 or 15, it is plastic still. And it will not, biodegrade after. Meaning, why don't we get rid of it and you say, let's embrace now paper bags.
And this one, of course, can come from, as I said, the law-making body. Because when they, on stand terms, say, yes, let us step down our feet and say, we don't need it, even if it is not bringing income for us. Let us find an alternative that will bring a better income for us. You know, the problem here is the manufacturers are generating income, revenue to the government. And therefore to leave them out, and many people are buying it. So the sales are very high and the revenue is very high. So to leave it out, it's like we're going to lose in getting revenue from this kind of thing. So probably we need to diversify the way we get revenue to supplement so that we can totally get rid of this. Because after all, there are many things for packaging. Paper is one of them. And paper is very fuel friendly. Although on the other hand, the paper will be causing a problem because we get the paper from trees. And that will mean to get a lot of paper, we need again to deforestate, which will cause more problem to...
we did that already.
I don't know. So you can see,
we did that already.
We need to find a better alternative of packaging. Otherwise, we will not even get rid of this, because the revenue from it probably is the one impeding its eradication. Because if we are getting money from this source and you don't have an immediate alternative to the source where you are getting revenue, then it is better to remain with this. And you begin putting conditions. Let us have this this gauge. Let's have this gauge, thinking that it will make it a different, and yet it's not. So it needs to be, it needs the legislature to make a very difficult decision of doing away with it. Otherwise, having double standards.
Because Doctor, if I've heard you very well, you talked about the issue of the income. Well, the manufacturer is, looking at getting the money from it, and also the government is looking at getting the revenues from what from the manufacturer, and even us who are the consumers. But as we close down on this point, it could even be the episode. I see my producer notifying me about that. But we are not looking at the soil or the environment that is keeping your consumer, your client, to consume what you're producing. To consume where you're getting the revenues. We're not looking at that. We're only looking at satisfying ourselves. That is sad. That's not a good country to live in, honestly.
That's why we're having these problems. Otherwise, if, as I said earlier, all the entities we've talked about were collaborating and they're working and having the country at heart, then they'll say, yes, this is what is causing us problem, and let us do away with it once and for all, and we find an alternative. That's why I was saying we needed to have people who can actually be good researchers to find out alternatives to such issues. So the implementation of any law that is enacted should be taken to conclusion. Otherwise, we'll make a law and it remains in theory. And the good governance we're talking about will not be appreciated. Because we shall not get the services we want as expected.
And no one can be as wise as the enactor of the law. Because you know why you enacted it. Why don't you? If you follow it up, it's like starting up a business. An employee cannot know and cannot get committed to the company organization as the employer. Or the director or the owner of that company.
So they should really own what they do, so that we get we get the services that will benefit us, and we shall give them another vote if they do it, and if we receive it. If we get good education, good health services, and our environment is well kept, we have good water resources, and so on, then we will give them another vote.
Yeah.
But and that can only be if they follow it up to conclusion.
Well, very good thoughts there, Doctor, and we are grateful to have you, especially on this issue of good governance. And I think we will, of course, hear from you more on that, talking about the collaboration, the working together between the three arms of government that can, give us good governance. And also, I heard you very well and very audibly talking about we need to get rid of this vice called corruption. And when we get back in our last episode, I hope you will get more time to elaborate more on especially on the how can we get rid of corruption, because it is one impediment we see that is actually causing all these issues and that is leading these three arms not to work together. They plan, they pay for any service, but it doesn't reach to the final person who's supposed to receive the Ugandan doesn't receive it. And we see the issue is corruption.
Yes.
How can we have a corruption or a corrupt-free country? We'll get back with Dr. Droti in our last episode. For now, we sign out. Thank you so much for watching Dream TV and the program, The Uganda We Want. We will come back with him in our last episode. For now, we sign out. Bye-bye. The Uganda we want.
So mu Uganda gye twagala mu lutalo luno olw'okulwanyisa obulabbayo obukenuzi nze kyempita obuvundu. Munnayuganda alina okuba nga yeenyigiramu.
Ffenna twenyigire mu lutalo.
Ate abalala tebasomye kuzimba wabula bayize okuzimba.
Uganda gye twagala okulaba ng'enguudo zonna nkole nungi, public transport nga weeri.
Kati eno gavumenti eriwo erina akabonero ka Lucifer. Buli kyotunulako mu Uganda kiriko oxygen. Either babika amawulire malungi oba mawulire mabi. Minisita teyeetaagisa kabangali budde buno. Zaki?
At this time, why should somebody import furniture from outside Uganda? Let us leave NRM to be in charge for another 36 years or more.
I really want to see a Uganda that believes in the rule of law. If you have a constitution in place, follow it to the letter. Don't change laws just because you want them to favor you.
Kuba njagala omanye nti obugagga bwonna Uganda bwe yeeyagaliramu buyita waffe ku ttaka lyaffe. Naye Busoga mugidibaze.
How can a referral hospital refer you to a private clinic? The Uganda we want buli muntu ateekwa okumanya nti I am a stakeholder, nkwatibwako si kwesuulirayo gwa
Uganda oyinza okukakana nga mwe mulina bagraduates aba university nga bangi okusinga ebungereza. Mwe mufokasinga nnyo ku degree. Eri bo bafokasinga nnyo nti byensomye mbijeemu omulimu n'enkola.
We are dreaming of a Uganda where at a young age there is such a relationship between parent and son, parent and daughter, where the daughter can say this is what I want.
Uganda gye twagala empya tesobola kubeerawo nga tewali mateeka. Amateeka agakola.
The Uganda we want. Wano ku Dream TV